Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Thalma, Lobel. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here this evening on your side of the world. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very pleased.
Yes, I'm so grateful. You are calling us and speaking to us from Israel at 10 p.m. at night. I'm so grateful that you were able to make it and speak to our audience today. You're going to talk about your wonderful book, Whatever Works, the Small Cues That Make a Big Surprising Difference in Our Success at Work, and how to create a happier office. We could use a lot of that. Now, interestingly, this will be interesting when I have you talk about this, because now the office is remote. So it's going to be a really interesting experience on how people build that office and happy environment. But share with our audience a little bit about your backstory and what caused you to write your book.
Well, I'm a psychology professor for many years. I studied Tel Aviv University and then at Harvard. I did my postdoc at Harvard University, where I stayed for several years and then came back and as a visiting professor taught there. And all my life, I've been doing research and writing articles in professional top journals. Mm-hmm. But I always wanted to write for the general audience. So 6 years ago, I wrote my first book for the general audience, which was called Sensation, The New Science of Physical Intelligence, by Simon & Schuster. And it was a very successful book, translated to 15 different countries. And I saw from the reaction of the people and that I really reached the vast majority. I mean, the people who are intelligent but don't study necessarily psychology, are not psychologists. So that's why I decided to write this book, which is about the work world. Mm-hmm. And I never sat only in the ivory tower, although I was all my years psychology professor and mainly doing research and teaching. I was also the dean of students. I'm a member of several board of directors. I was the chair of the psychology of the School of Psychological Sciences, which is a lot of hiring and negotiations and things like that are in the real world, in the work, and interviewing a lot of people. So I thought I'll take all these experience, my experience as a researcher, and my experience as negotiator, as interviewer, and interviewee, and manager, and all that, and write a book about how to succeed at work and have a happier office, but to focus, and that's very important for me to say, to focus on the things that are easy to implement, and yet we often don't notice them. They are either under our nose, but we are not aware that they influence us, or we are aware of them, but we don't think they matter. And sometimes we're not aware. I'll talk about it in a minute. And they influence our performance, our well-being, mm-hmm. etc. And I think it has a lot of relevance, as you said in the beginning, especially these days of the COVID-19, we changed a lot of our life. I mean, a lot of people work from home and we are more stressed than usual. And if you ask me about that, I'll be glad to say what I think about that and how this book helps with tips that are really easy to implement. Mm-hmm. And one more thing I want to add before you ask me is that everything is based on science. These are not thoughts that just came out of my head. Everything that I say and recommend mm-hmm. is based on studies published by the top researchers, not necessarily by me, that I reviewed, published in top journals, most of them, and then they give the tips, again, easy to implement and change your life.
Yeah. So these are what you're saying. They're based on actual hardcore evidence and
exactly.
research, not just your opinion. Yeah.
Completely. My opinion, I like my opinions, but they don't come into this book, but it's based on real science. I mean, studies that were done statistically and show the difference between if you do that or you do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, what's interesting from your research, I mean, I've been in a slew of offices in my lifetime, some happy environments, some not so happy. And what have you found through your research makes for a more happy environment? And also on the other side, on some of the environments you found that are unhappy, and what made them unhappy or less of a good environment?
Well, there are many things, as you can imagine. But let me focus on only few that we can control much better, because you can look at it also from the organizational point of view. But I want to talk now about the things that we can control, especially now that we work at home, a lot of us, but not only at home. Because when I wrote the book, it was just before the COVID-19 started, so I didn't think about it. But then I started thinking, how can you do it? So first of all, think about temperature. Small thing. Okay, when you're in the office, sometimes you cannot control the temperature if it's more general. So there are several solutions. If you can control, definitely if you're at home and you choose a room, first of all, control a temperature which is comfortable for you. But within these limits that you are in the comfort zone, stay a little bit to the cooler side. Why? Because if you're on the a little bit warmer side, you probably will feel very cozy and comfortable, but you will be tired, but you will be tired sooner, and it will be, you will perform worse, more complicated stuff. If you're just, doing some stuff that you don't have to think much, like more technically, that doesn't matter much. But if you're working on a complicated task, be a little bit, not that you will be not comfortable, but a little bit to the cooler side. That's one thing. Second thing, I'm just saying, the second thing, light. A lot of people think that if I'm working like I'm talking to you now and I'm looking at the computer, I could turn off the light because I see the computer very well. So a lot of people are working on the computer and they don't mind about the light. And this is a mistake, because light makes us more alert, less depressed, more alert. And even if we don't need it now to see, because I'm looking at the computer, it has a direct effect on us. Moreover, daylight is more important and more helpful than artificial light. So if you can choose a room with a window, and don't turn the shutters off. I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter, I'll turn on the light. No, if you're working during the day and you have a window, sometimes you don't have a choice. But if you do have a choice, use the daylight. So it's better. There are studies that show that office buildings that did not have a window, the people performed worse than those who had the window. And they came less to work. They had more sick days, even if they couldn't explain that's the reason.
Yeah.
If you're working in the evening, and of course you cannot use the daylight, turn on the light, but don't sit in the dark unless you are tired and you want to rest for a while. That I'm talking when you're working. Third thing, if you can, choose a room with a window, with a window with a view, and a nice view of nature. Again, not always we can do that. Let me, if I can go to the next subject, and I can return to that later if you want. Why do I stress the fact that you have to see nature? Work is a stressful thing a lot of time. We're stressed about succeeding. We're often afraid that we might be fired, especially these days that we can lose our job. We have to compete with colleagues, a relationship with a lot of things that can make it very deadlines, a lot of things that makes it stressful. These days, with COVID-19, we're much more stressed. I mean, I think everybody would understand, agree to that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Let's hope it will end soon, but at the moment, we are stressed. But even if we didn't have the COVID, there are things that are stressful in our life, and especially now. One of the things that are really, really easy to implement, and it was proven again and again to reduce our stress and to improve our performance, is exposure to nature. So, for example, I started with the easy thing. If you have a window, I'm showing with my hand to the window in my office. If you have a window and you have a natural view, just open it and from time to time just look. Okay, but often you don't. So even my suggestion is, which again was proven, that even if you're busy and you don't think you have time, if you can and you have around you it doesn't have to be wild forest or the beach, which is great, but if you just go down and look if you have a park or a small garden with trees and flowers, that will do. For example, There were studies conducted in Japan and the United States. In Japan, they took people to wild forests, and they divided into two groups. One group came to the wild forest. The other group came to an urban environment. And they told them, just sit and look at the view, then take a walk for 15 minutes, and that's it. They measured their cortisol level, which is the stress hormone.
Yeah.
They measured their pulse, and they measured their blood pressure before they came, after they sat down and looked at the view, and after the walk. And again, those who sat in the forest had lower cortisol level, blood pressure, compared to those who sat in urban environment. Another study was conducted in Stanford, where they asked students to walk for an hour, not 15 minutes, either in urban environment or in a park around the campus. And then they measured their physiological measures and also gave them to perform some cognitive tasks. And again, very similar results came out. Those who walked in nature performed better and were less stressed.
Yeah.
But you can tell me, what if you don't have a nature? I mean, you don't always, and I don't have time to take my car and go for half an hour to reach the beach or more. Okay, if you don't have, and I say you might, because a lot of time you can find a small garden, but if you don't, look at photos of nature. There are studies that show that helped to, or take a virtual trip in the internet in nature, or listen to natural voices.
Yes.
All these were proven to reduce the stress and increase your performance.
And Thalma, tell me if you've heard this as well. Bringing nature to you. My mentor used to say, pretty up your desk and put a beautiful plant. Maybe flowers at the start of the week.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that you
say that. Yeah, plants, and again, that was proven. Plants. There were studies on classes of children where there were plants at the back of the class in one class and no plants in the other one, and they perform better.
Yeah.
Without noticing it. So definitely, you can put photos, and also you can put, again, what to do with the happier office. Your first question, you can put photos of nature, of mountains, of beaches, of trees, and you can look at them from time to time. All these were proven. Again, I'm saying, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's very important to say that it's not something that I'm just thinking about.
No.
It was proven that physiologically and also the performance of these people were better. So, and it's easy to do.
No, I can attest. I told you before the interview, just 4 months ago, I moved here to Spring, Texas. We were in Brooklyn, New York, and I loved my apartment, but it was very city. And it's a teeny apartment, no windows to outside other than the side of a building. And so I had to go look for nature, get out there, like not close to my desk. And it was a little stressful working from home, but I love now here in Spring, Texas. I'm by the balcony. I chose a window seat and I open the balcony door during the day. So I'm smelling fresh greens and great air and getting real sunlight. And it made such a world of difference to me feeling alive and healthy. So I can totally attest to the actual, it making a transformation for myself.
Definitely. And that's all in the book. Whatever works, it shows really that it helps. And it's easy, as I say, because if you have nature around you, that's really, really easy. You can open the window. There was one study, for example, that they asked people to work on a boring task. And in the middle, they stopped them. And for 40 seconds, not minutes, seconds, they showed them a scenery of either one group was shown a scenery of a roof, a concrete roof. The other one, a flowering, a group with flowers and grass. And then they told them to continue the task. Those who saw the flowers and the grass performed better on the other half of the task, just for 40 seconds. Wow. So that's amazing.
Yeah. And for a big help for a lot of my friends who are working from home right now, they're wonderful pets. Okay. That is nature right in your home.
Cereal for roof flowering flowers and grass. Chicken.
Sorry about that.
No worries. That wonderful pet, you might have a bird, a cat, a dog. My little buddy Henry here. That's nature right here in your home. A friend that's offers you a time to sit down, maybe in the middle of the day, just get up, pet your dog, spend some time with your cat. Can bring you back that sense of,
Exactly.
Yeah. So these are great tips.
There is another chapter in the book about tips for creativity. You know, we all want to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in work, we want to be creative with our children, even in our cooking, everything. We want to be creative. But in the work world, it became more and more important. There is a survey done by those who give the jobs. And in the last years, creativity came out to one of the top 3 traits that are demanded no matter what job. Before, it was always important, but it was down. It was like the 10th. Now it's the 3rd or the 2nd, no matter what you're looking. So we all want to be creative. And people keep asking me, what should I do to be more creative? So of course, there are individual differences. Some people are more creative and some are less. Some jobs demand more creativity. But there are things that we can do, and as I said, easy, that can enhance our creativity. For example, there are studies that showed that if you look at a green or a blue surface or an object, you will be more creative. And there are studies that show that. And that's very easy to be done. I mean, if it's your office, you can even paint, put a photo of with a green surface, or change the screen to background which is green or blue. You can put some blue object and you just stare at it for a few minutes. There are studies shown that then people thought, for example, they gave them all kind of creativity tasks, like think about many uses of a certain object, and people performed better and gave more creative answers after they looked at the blue or green surface. Another thing, I see that you are amazed, but it was proven again and again. By the way, red is a bad color to look at because it kind of makes you avoid kind of avoidance, because it reminds you of danger, the red. And so definitely don't look at red when you're thinking creatively and because what is creativity? You want your mind to wander. You don't want to be under stereotypical thoughts.
Can I stop you a moment? Because
Sure.
It's interesting. Blue is one of my favorite colors, hence I'm wearing it. But I love blue. I love blue and pink too. But it's interesting. I had bought red plates and in my old apartment in Brooklyn. I had a lot of red going on and red plates. And my husband was like, I hate these plates. I hate the couch. He didn't like the energy from them. And he said, the plates, they make me want to kill them and break them and throw them across the room. And it's funny. Maybe that avoidance you're talking about, that energy from that color, it's just like, it doesn't match with eating or being creative. And I just think it's interesting. Do you think perhaps the blue and the greens are maybe because they stimulate maybe nature? Because you've got the sky.
Yeah, definitely. And they also are associated with openness. Blue is open sky, sea, and tranquility.
Interesting.
And when you want to wander, meaning thinking of all not out of the box things, not just to solve the problem, but to think, you let your mind wander. When you see something which makes you more open, and more tranquil, there is a better chance. That's the explanation, which might probably is true, but we still have to see if that's true. But the results are definitely true. I mean, those who looked at blue or green surface were more creative. But this is not the only thing. Another thing, for example, is to doodle or to walk in the room, but not in straight lines. If you're thinking about something, I'm brainstorming, I want to think about a new idea, take a piece of paper, take the pencil and doodle, but not in straight line, but rather in curvy, round lines. Again, there are studies that showed that those who did that came out with better answers, creative answers.
This is
also,
fascinating.
I'm sorry,
This is fascinating. I'm sorry that we're running out of time, so we only have 4 more minutes. I don't want to run out without people knowing how they can get a copy of your book. How could they do that, Thalma?
Well, it's very easy. The book is called Whatever Works, the small things that make our surprising effect on our office and make us a happier office. And they can find it in Amazon and online and in Barnes and Nobles. and in all the actually places that you can find the book. And you will see get a lot of emails from those who read it, thanking me for, I did that little things and it changed my life. A lot of things about how to express your emotions, more tips about creativity, about a lot of stuff, what to dress to an interview, how to use the Zoom, a lot of things.
Wow. Well, you gave so many small tweaks that you could just apply today, from just getting out there, opening your window, bringing nature into your life, having some blues or greens around you, having some nature sounds, so many things that we can just apply today. And our savvy audience could just make that work life that much better. I just have to thank you again, Thalma, for coming and sharing your great wisdom today on Savvy. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.